I buried my wife on a Thursday. By Monday, my only son was already trying to put me in a nursing home. Said I was too old. Said I couldn't take care of myself. But what he really wanted was the house. Our house. The one Lena and I built from the ground up. I refused. And do you know what he said to me? What happened next was rather surprisingly unexpected. I will tell you everything. First, let me thank you for your continuous support. If you love stories like this one, support us by subscribing to this channel and comment where you are watching us from. It will be great to hear from you. Now let's jump into the details of what happened. When Lena died, the house went silent in a way that felt personal, almost vindictive. Every clock seemed louder. Every floorboard creaked like it was morning too. The curtains she'd ironed just a week before still smelled like her lavender detergent. I sat alone in the formal dining room, the same place where she used to set the table with a stubborn elegance even when it was just the two of us. Her seat remained untouched. I couldn't bring myself to clear her glass, though the water inside had long since gone stale. My fingers hovered over the rim of the goblet more than once that morning, aching to hear her voice say, "Don't drink that old thing, Robert. You'll catch something. My name is Robert, and I'm 73 years old. I built this estate brick by brick, first metaphorically, then literally, alongside Lena. We had nothing at the start. I was a mechanic with oil in my hair and dreams I could barely afford. She was the daughter of a schoolteacher, patient and practical. Together, we built everything: the house, the business, our family. And now, in the deafening absence of her presence, it felt like the foundation was cracking. Daniel, our only son, didn't wait a week after the funeral before suggesting the nursing home. "Dad," he said, placing his phone face down on the table like it pained him to give me his full attention. "You're not getting any younger. This place is too big for you now. You need proper care. Someone who can keep an eye on you." He didn't say what he really meant. What he wanted. He wanted the house. I didn't respond right away. I just looked at him. The same eyes as mine, but colder. Less were in the soul, maybe. He always did have a taste for shortcuts. "Lena's barely in the ground," I said, each word tight like I was squeezing it through my teeth. "And you're already drawing up plans for where to put me? That's not fair," he said. "I'm thinking about your safety. This house is old. You could fall. There's stairs everywhere. No one's here to help you." "I didn't fall when I built the damn stairs, Daniel." His jaw twitched, and for a second, he looked like a child again, caught red-handed but still too proud to admit it. Then he said it, the sentence that cracked the spine of whatever was left of our civility. "Let's see who'll care for you if you won't go." He left not long after that. Didn't hug me. Didn't even close the door properly. For 3 days, I moved through the house like a ghost. I ate when I remembered to. Mostly toast. Drank coffee that tasted like cardboard. The help was gone. Daniel had conveniently let them go during the funeral arrangements. Said we didn't need the extra expense. But Lena had hired a girl at the restaurant not long before she passed. A maid who looked too young to carry the grief she wore in her eyes. I remembered her face then. Quiet. Watchful. Her hands moved like she was always trying not to break something. Lena had called her Elena. Something stirred in my chest when I thought of her name. Not suspicion exactly. More like a string being plucked softly, a memory I couldn't place. Maybe it was the way she stood too straight when no one was watching. Or the way she looked at me once. Just once. Like she recognized me, but wasn't sure how. I reached for Lena's old journal, the one she kept in the drawer beside her side of the bed. She was always writing in it. Grocery lists, to-dos, recipes, and sometimes, late at night, her thoughts. She didn't keep secrets. Not really. But there were things she never said aloud. I flipped through the pages like a man starving. One page, dated 2 weeks before she died, was scribbled hastily. Spoke to Sister Agnes. Finally found the orphanage. She'll be here next week. I can't wait to see his face. I read it 3 times before I allowed myself to breathe. Sister Agnes. The orphanage. She. My fingers trembled. It couldn't be. Could it? Elena. The maid. I stood up too fast, the chair screeching across the tiles, and the sudden pain in my hip reminded me of everything Daniel had said. But I didn't care. I hobbled to the phone and called the restaurant. "Hey," I said when the hostess picked up. "Is Elena working today?" "Yes, sir. She's in the back, cleaning up. Want me to get her?" "No. Just tell her Mr. Robert wants to see her. At the house. Now. And then I sat in the same chair Lena used to occupy, eyes fixed on the front door, heart pounding like it hadn't in years. Not since I was a boy. Not since I was foolish and in love and had to say goodbye to the girl who told me she was pregnant. Lena knew. And if I was right, if Elena was who I thought she might be, then my world was about to turn inside out. And Daniel? Daniel was in for a surprise he would never recover from. Elena arrived just past noon. I heard her car door close with a soft clunk, followed by tentative footsteps up the long stone path that Lena and I had once laid with our own hands. I stood just beyond the entryway, watching her through the beveled glass as she raised her hand to knock. She hesitated, then dropped it. Knocked anyway. Come in, I said, my voice echoing louder than I intended. She stepped inside, her eyes flicking around the foyer like it was holy ground. Her shoes were clean but scuffed. She wore the same simple black dress she always wore to the restaurant, her apron folded neatly in her hands. You asked to see me, Mr. Robert? Sit, I said, pointing to the antique armchair Lena used to prefer for guests. I took my place across from her, leaning forward, elbows on my knees. I need to ask you something. She nodded, clutching her apron like a shield. How long have you been working at the restaurant? 7 months. I started just before Christmas. Mrs. Lena hired me herself. And before that, I was at St. Gabriel's Orphanage in Fairfield. I turned 18 last fall, so they helped me get set up nearby. I felt my breath catch. Fairfield. Sister Agnes. I rubbed my hand over my face, trying to stay steady. Did Lena ever talk to you about me? Elena hesitated. Her fingers loosened slightly around the apron. She told me you were kind, stubborn, that you had a big heart you didn't like people seeing. I laughed bitterly. That sounds like her. Then I took a deep breath, looked her straight in the eyes, and asked the question that had been gnawing at my ribs for days. Did she ever tell you why she really hired you? Elena looked down, silent. For a long time, she didn't say anything. I thought maybe she would bolt, run out the door, and never come back. But then she reached into her purse and pulled out a letter. She told me to give this to you if anything ever happened to her. I wasn't sure when or how, but maybe now is the right time. My hands shook as I unfolded the paper. Lena's handwriting. Slanted, neat. Robert, if you're reading this, then I never got to tell you myself. Elena is your daughter. I found her. I followed every crumb, called every name, chased every whisper until I had proof. She doesn't know everything. Not yet, but she knows enough. I wanted to bring her to you. I wanted to watch your face light up. I'm sorry I didn't get to. Love always. Lena. I must have read it 10 times before I looked up. Elena was crying quietly, one hand covering her mouth. You knew? I whispered. She nodded slowly. Not at first, but I had dreams. Bits of stories. When she told me who she thought you were, I didn't believe it. Until I saw you. I couldn't speak. I reached for her hand across the space between us. For the first time since Lena died, I didn't feel alone. And for the first time in his life, Daniel wasn't the only heir. Next, Daniel returns to find Elena living at the mansion and learns the truth he's completely unprepared for. I didn't sleep that night. Every time I closed my eyes, I saw Sylvia. 17, barefoot, laughing under the summer sun with grease on her cheek from pretending to help me fix my bike. She had that fire, that fearlessness I both admired and dreaded. We were young and reckless, making promises that no real world could hold. Then one night she came to me crying, hands shaking, whispering, I'm late. Her parents, strict and unyielding, found out soon after. They pulled her out of school, sent her away. I went to her house once, maybe twice, begging for an address, a number, anything. Her father slammed the door in my face. Her mother watched through the curtains, eyes full of something I couldn't name. Pity or disdain, I don't know. A few months later, word came that Sylvia had died in a car crash. No details, no obituary, just gossip passed from a friend of a friend. And the baby? The baby vanished into the system. I was 20 then, and I didn't have the means, or the wisdom, or the fight in me to tear the world apart to find that child. But Lena, God bless her, she never forgot. She knew what Sylvia meant to me. She knew the ache I carried in silence. I don't know when she started searching. She never told me. Not once in our 40 years together. She must have followed threads I'd long given up on, called orphanages, tracked down old nurses, maybe even hired someone, all without breathing a word. And now, Elena sat upstairs, sleeping in the guest room like it was always meant to be hers. I spent the morning going through Lena's things again. In a small box at the bottom of her closet, I found files, names, addresses, correspondence with Sister Agnes. There were photos, too, of Elena at different ages. I stared at one for a long time. She must have been 8, in a school uniform, eyes too serious for her age. How long had Lena known? And why had she waited? But I knew why. She wanted to get it right. To protect both of us. She probably didn't want to get my hopes up in case it wasn't true. And knowing her, she was waiting for a perfect moment. A dinner maybe, candles lit, some sentimental speech, when she could sit us both down and say, "Robert, meet your daughter." But life doesn't always give you the chance to tie up loose ends with a bow. Later that afternoon, I found Elena in the garden, kneeling where Lena used to tend the roses. She didn't flinch when I approached. That was her spot, I said. Every morning, rain or shine. She said the roses talked back if you were patient enough. Elena smiled faintly. She told me the same. We sat in silence for a while, just breathing in the scent of earth and memory. Then she asked, "Do you blame her for not telling you sooner?" I looked at her, really looked at her, and saw the pieces of both Sylvia and Lena in her face. "No," I said quietly. "I thank her for everything." And I meant it, because Lena had given me something that no money, no estate, no son angling for inheritance could ever replace. She gave me back my daughter. Next, Daniel returns and discovers the home he assumed was his is no longer waiting for him. Daniel didn't knock. He just pushed open the front door like he still owned the place. "Dad?" he called out, his voice echoing through the foyer like it had a right to. "I brought the paperwork. We need to talk." I stood at the top of the stairs, leaning on the banister, watching him fumble with his designer bag in arrogance. He hadn't changed. Tan coat, pressed slacks, a phone in his hand he never looked away from for more than a second. He looked up and paused, startled to see me standing there, firm and unshaken. "Still here," I said calmly. "Surprised?" Daniel's brows lifted. "I figured you'd have come to your senses. That place I found has gardens, nurses around the clock, your own TV." I started down the steps slowly, every creak of wood beneath my feet sounding like a defiant drumbeat. "I already have a garden," I said, glancing toward the back window where Elena knelt near Lena's roses. "And someone who checks on me without a paycheck demanding it." He followed my gaze and blinked. "Is that the maid?" "She's not a maid," I said. "She's family." Daniel laughed, a sharp, confused chuckle that didn't reach his eyes. "What? Since when do we call the help family?" I walked past him, slowly, until we were both standing near the foyer's center rug. He had his back to the front door now, boxed in. I wanted him to feel it, the weight of the truth. "Since Lena found my daughter," I said. He froze. "No," he said, shaking his head. "No, you mean wait. That girl? The one from the restaurant? Are you out of your mind?" "Careful," I warned. "That girl is your sister." Daniel let out a bitter laugh, but it crumbled in his throat. "She's not. This is ridiculous. Is this some kind of manipulation? Dad, she's what, 20? Some orphan Lena felt sorry for." I pulled the letter from my pocket, the one Lena had written, the one that changed everything. I handed it to him. "Read it." He snatched it, I scanning quickly. I watched his face morph from skepticism to disbelief to rage. "This doesn't mean anything," he snapped, crumpling the letter in his fist. "You're being conned." She probably showed up with a sob story and Mom, God rest her, was too sentimental to see through it. I stepped closer. "Lena did what you never did. She cared more about what I wanted than what she could gain. She gave me back something you never could. She gave me peace." "And what about me?" Daniel barked. "What do I get? I stood by you after Mom died. I've been managing the business, handling bills. You've been circling like a vulture," I said sharply, "waiting to take the last thing that means anything to me. And you didn't come to help. You came to claim." Silence stretched between us like a rubber band about to snap. Elena entered then, wiping dirt off her hands with a towel, her eyes landing first on me, then on Daniel. She didn't shrink away. Daniel turned to her, eyes hard. You think you're going to steal what's mine? This house, this inheritance, none of it belongs to you. She stood her ground. I didn't ask for any of this, she said calmly. I just wanted to know where I came from, who I was. Your mother gave me that. You're not part of this family, he shouted. Yes, she is, I said. And she's staying. Daniel looked at me, then back at her, then at the staircase as if realizing, perhaps for the first time, that this house no longer welcomed him. That every wall, every window, every square inch remembered his mother's quiet compassion more than his own entitlement. Then I'll see you in court, he spat. You'll regret this. I didn't flinch. Maybe, but I'd regret letting you take everything Lena and I built and burying it under your greed even more. He stormed out, the door slamming behind him like thunder cracking. Elena stood beside me, eyes wide but steady. You didn't have to do that for me, she whispered. I didn't, I said. I did it for Lena. And for me. But I'm glad you're here. She nodded, and for a moment, all I saw was Sylvia's eyes and Lena's heart staring back at me. Next, in Chapter 5, Daniel's anger turns public, but Elena steps into her role, not as a maid, but as her father's daughter. The next morning, I woke to a buzzing phone and 3 missed calls. 1 from Daniel, 2 from the family lawyer. I didn't answer any of them. Instead, I walked into the kitchen and found Elena already there, barefoot, cooking scrambled eggs in Lena's old skillet. She turned when she saw me, a shy smile peeking through the steam. I wasn't sure if you'd be up, she said. I've been up since dawn, I replied. Couldn't sleep. Too much noise in my head. She plated the eggs and slid them onto the kitchen table. I figured we could at least start the day with something hot. It was a small gesture, but it nearly broke me. Lena used to say the same thing. We ate in silence. Not awkward. Just 2 people trying to find rhythm in a new arrangement neither of us saw coming. But before I finished my coffee, the noise outside made it clear our peace wouldn't last. 2 cars parked out front. A third one idled with a cameraman standing beside it. Elena, I said quietly, I think today's going to test us. She peered out the window. Her expression tightened. Is that the news? Daniel moves fast, I muttered, especially when he's losing control. Sure enough, within the hour, a story broke online. Widower abandons family business, allegedly leaves estate to restaurant worker. No names, but the implication was clear. Daniel's version of events painted him as the dutiful son betrayed by a senile father manipulated by a young opportunist. Elena saw it before I did. Her hands trembled as she scrolled. I didn't ask for this, she whispered. I never wanted any of it. I know, I said, but you deserve every bit of it. And they'll see that. Eventually, calls came flooding in. Distant cousins, old business partners, even a church friend or 2. Some were curious. Some were accusatory. Most wanted to know if it was true, if I had really thrown my own son to the wolves. By noon, Daniel released a statement. Public. Calculated. All I've ever done was try to care for my father. It breaks my heart to see him fall under the influence of someone who wasn't even in our lives until recently. I have no choice but to protect what my mother and father built. I shut the laptop with more force than I meant to. This is war to him, I said. Elena stayed quiet. Then, with calm determination, she said, then we don't play defense. We tell our truth. The next day, she sat down with a journalist Lena had trusted, a woman who once did a spotlight on the restaurant. Elena shared her story. Growing up in the orphanage, finding out the truth, how Lena had taken her in gently, privately, just to see if the pieces might fit. I didn't want a house or an inheritance, she said, eyes glistening on camera. I just wanted to know if someone ever thought about me. And now I know he did. That interview aired 2 days later. The tide shifted. The public began to see the other side. Daniel called again. This time I picked up. You're destroying everything, he snapped. No, I said. You did that the moment you tried to throw me away like a burden. There was silence. Then a low, bitter laugh. You think you've won. I don't want to win. I want peace. And you've made that impossible. I'll contest the will. I'll drag this out for years. Do what you need to, I replied, calm as a man who had already buried too many things to be afraid of losing more. But know this, Lena chose Elena for a reason. And I stand by her. He hung up. Elena entered a moment later, having heard most of it. You didn't have to defend me again. Yes, I did, I said. Because this house is more than bricks. It's memory, and it belongs to someone who understands that. She walked over, hugged me, and I let the tears fall without shame. Next, in the final chapter, Robert reflects on what he's lost, what he's gained, and where his heart finally rests, with the daughter he never thought he'd find. There's a stillness in the house now that doesn't feel lonely, it feels earned. It's been 3 months since Daniel walked out, and in that time, the dust has settled in more ways than one. The lawsuit never came. I think he realized that dragging this into court would only expose more of his desperation. Or maybe, deep down, he knew Lena's choice wasn't impulsive. It was rooted in something real. Something he could never fake, no matter how many headlines he manipulated. The business runs on its own these days. I've stepped back. Elena oversees the restaurant now, and somehow, she's made it feel like both her and Lena live inside it. She changed nothing major, just small things. A framed photo of Lena on the counter. Fresh flowers in the entry every week. A little shelf in the corner where customers can leave notes or memories about their meals, their loved ones. She calls it Lena's Corner. It breaks me every time I see it. And it heals me in the same breath. We've developed our rhythm, Elena and I. She cooks. I garden. We argue playfully about the thermostat. She teases me about how I drink too much black coffee. I leave the porch light on when she comes home late. I'm not her replacement father, and she's not my second chance. We are what we are now, two people tied by blood, bonded by years we never had, trying to make up for them in the time we still do. One night, we sat on the porch as the sun dipped behind the hills. I looked over at her, thinking about all the things I never got to say to Lena, all the things I would have told Sylvia if I'd had the chance. You know, I said, you look like her. Sylvia, I mean, not just the face. The way you sit quietly when you're upset. The stubborn tilt in your chin when you're sure you're right. Elena smiled, resting her head lightly on my shoulder. I used to wonder if anyone ever thought about me. I'd sit up in bed some nights and pretend my real parents were just looking for me. That they'd show up one day. That I belonged to someone. I swallowed hard. I thought about you every damn day. And there it was, an understanding that didn't need fixing. We're not perfect. The house still creaks. The shadows of old arguments still linger in some rooms. I still have bad days. Days where I wake up expecting to hear Lena in the kitchen and then remember she's gone. But now, there's someone else humming while she scrambles eggs. Someone who sets the table with quiet care. Someone who didn't take anything from me. She gave me something back. I visit Lena's grave once a week, bring her flowers from the garden. I sit beside her and talk about the house, the weather, what Elena's up to. I tell her about Daniel sometimes, too. How I hope he finds whatever it is he's looking for. I haven't closed the door on him, but I've learned not to leave it wide open either. Boundaries, Lena used to say, are a form of love too. One evening, as I was locking up, Elena turned to me and asked, "Do you ever regret not finding me sooner?" I looked at her and said, "No, because now I have you, and I'm not wasting a second of it." And that's the truth. Because in this house, my house, Lena's house, her house, we found each other. We weren't lost anymore. Sometimes the family we fight for isn't the one we expected, but the one we needed all along. What would you have done if you were in my shoes? Would you have let Daniel back in or chosen the daughter you never got to raise? Drop your thoughts below, and let's talk about the meaning of legacy, loyalty, and second chances.